Welcome to In the Fire, a podcast for the young families of Chapelgate Presbyterian Church. Marriage and parenting are a wonderful blessing and are extremely rewarding, but they're also really hard and can leave us feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and defeated. That's exactly why we started this podcast, to help families see how the gospel injects encouragement, comfort, and hope into the daily grind of our lives, and to remind you that you're never alone in the struggle. There is another in the fire.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob Gicking. It's very exciting to be with you again for another episode of In the Fire. Today, I'm joined by my friend Melanie Bianco, who's a coordinator of women's ministry here at Chapelgate. Did I say that right?
You did. Thrive,
okay.
though.
Thrive, which is our women's
the
ministry. Exactly.
Yes.
And, Melanie's going to be talking a little bit about her story and about what it's like to be a mom and a wife and also a disciple and many other things. But before we do that, we got to bring back the hard-hitting question. I actually took a couple journalism classes. That's a lie. I looked up things on the internet, and I thought to myself, these are not good questions. So I have a different one for you. And here's the hard-hitting question to get us started. Are you ready?
Sure, yes.
Okay. In a digital platform, can you think of anyone at our church who has taken a specific interest in caring and investing for your family, specifically maybe your husband and sons?
In a digital platform,
let's just say like video games, perhaps.
Video games, all right, great. Yeah, they do love those. I think I would probably have to say you, Rob.
That's right.
Yeah, my boys love you. They love to be able to chat with you, and I think you get to hear a nice little background peek into what our home life is like through whatever that thing is that you guys talk on.
Yeah, the Discord,
which is really our home. So
yeah,
great.
and I just got to say, it's because I'm so great, isn't it? Isn't that really it?
I think so. You really just draw them in, make them feel comfortable, and you're really encouraging when you guys just shoot everyone down.
Yes, yeah. There's nothing like spreading the love of Jesus in a video game format by shooting all the bad guys.
Yes, with a submachine gun.
Well, obviously, I'm joking. Dan and the kids and me, we do play some Fortnite, and Melanie is very kind and gracious and allows us to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's definitely more of an investment in me than it is them. That's for sure.
It's all about community, Rob.
Shout out to Dom and Henry, who lead our team to victory on a regular.
It's true.
Yeah.
Battle Royale.
Victory Royale.
Victory Royale.
Dan, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. You got to step up your game because your boys are overshadowing you.
Well, we really want to raise our kids to be
confident.
Better than we are, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
confident.
It's good.
Well, good. I'm glad. Listen, Melanie, I'm really excited to have you here today and get to hear your story. So why don't we start just with some of the basics? Tell us about, how many kids you guys have. Tell us about your marriage, how long, things like that.
Okay. Well, first, thanks for having me. My name's Melanie Bianco, as you said. I'm the coordinator here at Chapelgate for Thrive, which is the women's ministry. I've been married to my husband, Dan, for just 13 years now. We just celebrated 13 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What did he get you?
We went on a whole family cruise.
Oh, that's right. That cruise was for your anniversary.
Anniversary, Christmas. Yeah.
Hot dog.
The two of us, all of the kids. We threw some friends and cousins and family members in there. It was great.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
did it have the bottomless ice cream and pizza bars?
100%, but not pizza, tacos. Ice cream and tacos.
That's kind of an upgrade.
For sure.
Well done. Well done, Dan. Good job, buddy.
It was great. So we've been married for 13 years. We have 6 kids between the ages of 15 and 4 years old. So it really spans like all of development.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so your oldest, Daniel, I believe is he wrestling right now?
He is wrestling.
Okay.
Yes, he made it to the county championships tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and we live for that.
That's awesome. So. That's so special.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do here at church then.
Okay. So I came on board here in September alongside Judy Puckett. And my goal really is to make sure that the women at Chapelgate, which we define as high school and up, feel that they have a place here and feel that they're loved, provide opportunities for women to connect and be drawn in and feel seen. And so we do that through different events. We do that through Bible studies, ladies' nights out, just all sorts of ways. We're just trying to reach as many people as we can and let them know that they're welcome here.
Yeah, and you guys do, I know I'm a guy, but I have a wife, and you do a really great job. And so it's a blessing to my family, the work that you and Judy do. And I'm excited for it. It sounds like there's a lot of great stuff going on. And I think it's really exciting that there's places for the women of Chapelgate to gather. And obviously in the Young Families Ministry, that gathering aspect is really important.
Yes.
And it becomes very difficult when you start having kids. And so I think let's maybe just start the conversation with this. You've been married for a while. You have a lot of kids, 6 kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so 6 kids, 13 years of marriage. At some point, it must have hit you that this is having an impact on your relationship with the Lord and with your spouse. But let's start with just the Lord. Like, what has your relationship with God looked like over the years with having 6 kids?
I think when we started having kids, we were so young. We're 21 years old. And I think my husband and I both would have said we were Christians at that point. And God sort of used our marriage and our children and things in our lives for us to realize, oh man, this is really kind of in name only versus having a real relationship in our hearts. And so specifically kids, I think the time that I learned or realized that I had so much to learn and that I hadn't internalized this relationship was at a mom's Bible study with Connie Hoekstra and Brenda Gockenbach. And we were reading through Hebrews and talking about different things that stuck out to us in Hebrews. And one lady mentioned the verse where it talks about how Jesus was tempted as we are tempted.
Right.
And that, I knew that in my brain. I grew up knowing that, but I'd never really thought about it before. That, like, holy smoke, this is a real, deep, personal relationship. And God can understand these struggles that I have and these struggles that I go through. And I don't have to have this facade of having it all together. I can just be real and face the things that are wrong in my heart and face the things that are hard in the world. And Jesus is there for me and he gets it. So I think that's like the big way that having kids has influenced me in my own relationship.
So it basically sounds to me like you had kids, you realized that you needed community, and it was in the context of that community that you really started to understand the personal relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, let's go from there then. So you kind of come to the realization, you're like, no, Jesus isn't this far off, distant, idea. He's a real person. He really cares about me. Where'd y'all go from there?
Well, it was kind of a process, and it was a really hard process. I think God put it on both my heart and Dan's heart around the same time that we were not who we thought we were, which was really fortunate in some ways because we could go through it together, and also really hard in some ways because we were both going through a hard thing at the same time. And
yeah.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Well, just maybe talk to us a little bit about, once you had that realization that Jesus wanted a personal relationship with you, where did y'all go from there? Like, what were the decisions that you made to begin investing in and pursuing Jesus?
We started reading the Bible more.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because that's something that a lot of people, like right off the bat that you brought that up, a lot of people struggle with that, right? You have little kids, and you spend all day caring for them, right?
Yes.
Or, if you work all day, and then you come home, and rather than relax, you care for them. And, you kind of get to the end of the day and you're zonked, you're exhausted, and it's just easier to turn on the TV. So you're saying you guys actually started to say, what did that look like?
And it wasn't like some huge thing where, oh my gosh, we just realized this all of a sudden, we're just diving in full blast and now we're great, good to go. It was a battle. It was a struggle, and it was like a little bit at a time, you know? But I think mainly what it was is we were able to kind of chill out a little bit and give each other and give our children grace to like evolve into who God was calling us to be. It was really kind of a family journey.
Okay.
I think.
What were there things that you all decided to do as a family in terms of the Bible study, or was it just like literally you and Dan started reading in the morning or just throughout the day?
No, not even structured. We're not a very like structured family necessarily. Sometimes we would read the same thing and then discuss it. Sometimes it was him deepening his understanding, me deepening my understanding. One thing that we got into that is just one of my favorite things is at bedtime, we all gather around and Dan will read from the Bible, and the kids just have like really great questions and insights, and it's just a blast. Like it's really just a rejuvenating time. I think we're both to the point now where we will both solidly say, yes, we have faith in Jesus Christ. But nothing's ever perfect, you know, like we're all works in progress. And so just like redoing it each day and just trying to grow and share with our kids and have those around us hold us accountable.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, sitting down even with your whole family. And your youngest children are how old?
The younger two are 6 and 4.
Yeah. Do they follow along?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. It's very like kind of story style. And we don't normally do like story books.
Mm-hmm.
We just read from the Bible. But kids have like a mind that just absorbs, you know, and they pick up a little here, just like adults, right? We pick up a little here, we pick up a little there. We ask a good question, we realize something, and over time, I feel it all just sort of gets woven together. So
I think that's really cool. I feel like one of the things that is difficult as a parent sometimes is to be like, is this even, that sounds like a lot of effort. Let's just start there. That takes effort. Because kids are not always ready to just be like, well, sure, I'll put down my screen or whatever else I wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I will sit down and I will listen to you read, you know, the cleansing laws of Leviticus, you know, like
that's definitely where we started.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure. We just want to draw them in.
Yeah, you really want to show off the coolness of the Bible.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there is a sense in which sometimes maybe we fall into the trap of underestimating what they pick up.
Yeah.
And so like that you and Dan are sitting down with your kids who are in very different ages and abilities to comprehend and process. But the truth is even the 4-year-old, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Was that difficult to get started? Did the kids like respond pretty well, or was it a little bit of like, you know, a
no,
slow
they
roll?
love it. They like beg, no, one more chapter. So it's just, I don't know. It's just nice. And we also, I don't know. We're not very, like I said, we're not very structured, and we're not very like, there's one way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times while we're reading and having these discussions, they're drawing or they're looking at another book. And so it's less of like a formal sit down, this is what we're doing right now as a family, and more just relaxed and kind of trusting that God's going to lead it where it needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah, a few guests prior to this conversation, I had one of my mentors, Dr. Paul Koistra, on, and he's just a wonderful man of God, and he was talking about how when he had little kids, he had started trying to read the Bible and realized it was too much. He had little kids, you know, and so instead he started taking like basically biblical stories and turning them into like stories about 2 dogs. And I forget what he tells you the names of the dogs in the podcast, but I can't remember what they are at the moment. But just he would take these 2 dogs and he'd make up stories about how the dogs, you know, were nice to one another. And, you know, it's like, it reminds me of this parable. And it's just like, it is interesting how we can kind of fall into the trap of, well, if I can't do this like all the way, if I can't do it perfectly, if I can't structure this like in the most repeatable way, then I'm just not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you guys are like, no, like anything is better than nothing, and let's do this.
Yes, like they have that phrase, like anything worth doing is worth doing right. Is that what it is?
I think so, sure.
And then I read somewhere that we can't have that be our mindset, because if our only goal is perfection, we're never going to hit it.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to give ourselves some grace, and give our kids some grace, and give the people around us some grace, and like just do what we can.
Yeah.
And use the time that we have and the effort that we have as best we can.
Yeah, and to pray over that,
Yeah.
Lord, like, I feel that this is not useful some days, and it's tempting to just not do it at all, because, we're not having great deep conversations with I have an almost 4-year-old. I'm like, sometimes he's interested, and a lot of times he's not interested, and sometimes he just wants to go to bed, or he wants me to tell him right now everything is about Mustang police cars.
Sure.
I've never seen one in real life, but in his world, that is the pinnacle of all things. And so, we're trying to do, like, he'll do some catechism questions with me, but he's rushing through it to get to the time where Daddy tells him a story about a Mustang police car and 4 or 5 bad guys.
Yes, great.
Well, listen, that's very frustrating for me sometimes, because I'm like, I want my kids to learn about God and to ask me questions about God, not Mustang police cars.
Yeah.
And yet you pray and you go, Lord, watch, like, grow my child up in your love. Like, bring Brad and Alex into a relationship with you. Redeem this time of Mustang police car stories and of, a few rushed catechisms or some Bible verses, like, and use it for your glory and the good of my children.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, I was trying to think of, like, how has my relationship overall changed with God because of kids. And I think just trusting the Lord and his process. And, like, I worry a lot. It's not even worry, because it's not productive. It's just, I feel anxious sometimes about, what are my kids' lives going to look like? Who are they going to be? Are they going to be okay? Are they going to love the Lord? But they're not ours, right? Like, our kids are not ours to like hold on to tightly. They're God's, and he gave them to us to be stewards of them for this short time in eternity. And I personally have to work really hard to make sure that my children don't become my idols, that I'm so wrapped up in my role as mom, as my identity, and my role to, like, raise these kids, that I'm holding on to them more tightly than I'm holding on to the cross.
Yeah.
That's, like, a big struggle for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's easy to fall into that, that it's logical to fall into that, right?
Yes,
like, these
course.
are my children. It's my job to protect and nurture
Right.
them, and I have to control as much of the circumstances as possible to make sure this happens.
And if I don't do X, Y, Z, they're never going to know the Lord. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And to even say your personal relationship has been challenged and grown because of this dynamic, because you have to, well, first off, if you stay on that track, you're going to go insane.
Yes.
Right. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have sick to your stomach. You're going to just lose your mind at some point.
Yes.
And so then you have to come to a place where you go, like, and for some of us, it takes longer than others, but you have to get to a place where you say, no, these are God's children. Like, God is sovereign. God is good. God loves my child more than I do. And God can do way more than I can.
Yes.
So do I want to parent from my own strength, or do I want to pray that God is actually, like, leading and loving my child?
Yes. Exactly.
And that's really hard, especially, like, we've both heard stories being in ministry of, folks who have been in the church their whole life and have brought their kids to church, and then the kid turns 19 or 23 or 25 and out they go. And they're not walking with the Lord, and there's no greater pain for a parent, I think, in a lot of ways, and yet, where do we go? Well, it's like Peter. Where else would we go? You have the words of life.
Yeah.
So that's really a great observation, Melanie. Well, let's talk now about marriage. I think when we think about the family unit, right? There's kind of two large, regions of our family unit, and the first is marriage and the second is parenting. It can be difficult to prioritize your marriage when you have any number of kids.
Yes.
Kids they're not like a part-time job. So how have you and Dan, either struggled or found, even some thriving and flourishing in your marriage over this time of raising kids?
I would say for probably the first 5 years of our marriage, it was tough.
Okay.
It was really hard. And we loved each other so much, but we just struggled to be able to relate to each other, and show each other that love in a healthy way. It was tumultuous at times. And I think one of the hardest parts was becoming parents and having to figure out who we were as parents, because I was drawing from my childhood and how I was parented. He's drawing from his childhood, how he was parented. They're very different. And so where do we end up with that?
Sure.
Right? How do we work together to figure out, all right, well, we're going to take a little bit of this, we're going to leave that, we're going to add this in here, to become the parents that God is calling us to be to these children. So I would say it probably took about 5 years for us to work through that.
Yeah.
And what a hard time it was, but how beautiful it is now. God really used even that trial to bring us together. I think we've gotten to the point now where we can be on the same page with each other, even if we disagree. We've learned to be able to relate to each other and talk things out and figure out, all right, what are we doing? How are we addressing this time?
Right.
There was a time for a while when the kids were very small where it felt like there wasn't any time for the two of us because we're just like tag teaming,
Right.
And then we went through a period where I feel like we were able to get some good quality husband-wife time in. We're not either of us are like go out people, but after the kids would go to bed, we'd have a few hours in the evenings, just unwind, talk, connect with each other. And now that the kids are older, it feels like we're kind of swinging back in the other direction. We're chauffeurs a lot. The kids are older, so they're staying up later more and hanging out with us, which is amazing. But it's like, oh man, it's been several days since we've actually had just the time for two of us. So it's not like a fight or anything right now, but we're definitely in a phase where we have to figure out how to be parents and husband and wife in the same space.
Yeah, I get that like completely. Dan and I talk from time to time. He and I are both big believers that those first like basically 12 to 18 months are just, I mean, it's a bear.
Yeah.
I mean, some people nobody gets through it like unscathed, but some people really do kind of just make it through. That whole like lack of sleep thing is just water off their back, and some, not me. I'm like, when I am not sleeping, I am literally a different human being. It's like I'm just a cranky, nasty like airhead. Yeah. And that's not a fun place to be, and that does take a toll on your spouse and your marriage. And so it sounds to me like there's just a lot of this young family life is admitting, things aren't how I'd like to see them be, but they are what they are.
Yes.
And, we're going to keep praying and moving forward and trusting God to get us through.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when I was able to come to the realization that I have no idea what is going on and I am not in control of anything, it became a lot easier because I was already having to deal with things in chaos, but now I didn't have to worry about trying to necessarily control the chaos and change it from that chaos. It's just living in the chaos and trying to thrive in it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of thrive, how has community, especially for you as a wife and a mother, how has fellowship with the church, and by church I really mean like the people that you rub shoulders with, the people that you're close with, who kind of are in the trenches with you. Yes. How has that impacted your marriage? How has it impacted your parenting?
When the kids were really little, and I'm talking about like 5 kids under the age of 7, it was a lifesaver to be able to have some gal pals to meet up with during the day. And like in the cold months, we would haul everybody to Chick-fil-A, and the kids would run around the play place, and we'd sit and chat. In the warm months, we would just go to the park, and the same thing. And it was just nice to, one, be surrounded with people that are loving. Two, be surrounded by people who also love the Lord and can call you out in love if they see something that maybe could be different. And just like get out of the monotony of the everyday, which I feel like when you're young and you've got young kids, it can feel like that at times. Like, oh gosh, just the same thing every day. Just break it up a little bit. Feel like a human outside of just being in your home necessarily. Just come alongside one another. Remind each other that you're not crazy. Remind each other that this is like whatever struggle you're dealing with is a normal thing. And I think it was also helpful to have people on the other side of that. Like, it's good to have people that are going through exactly what you're going through.
Yes.
It's also good to have people that are like, hey, maybe you feel like you're trapped in a fog right now, but it won't always be like that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm like, because of my role here with our young families, right? I'm in a relationship. Kate and I are blessed to be in a relationship with a lot of other young families. And there is actually great comfort in like, just like the relief you feel when you're like, oh man, I'm not the only one, right? Like I was having a conversation with one of my closest friends the other day, and he was like, I don't know how to discipline my kid. And I was like, bro, welcome to the club. You know, like it's hard. And we're like living in a world where like you feel like, we don't need to go down the path, but it's just like, it's overwhelming. It's difficult. And sometimes it's really, really helpful to hear someone else say, I'm overwhelmed. This is difficult. And you go, oh, I really thought I was the only one. I'm so glad I'm not.
Yes.
But it's also helpful to have those people who can say, you're right. It is overwhelming. It is difficult, and you will make it.
Yep.
Because we all did.
Yep.
So, you know, and whether you want to call that formally like a mentor or not, that is kind of what it is, isn't it? It's like a little bit of that. I've been there. I've done that. I'm going to pray for you and encourage you. And I may even actually be able to give you a point or two on how to get through this.
Yes.
And our women's ministry, Thrive, actually has a mentorship program, yeah?
We do. Yes, we do.
Why don't you tell us a little about that? Because I think that is something that our generation, yours and mine, is pretty foreign to us.
Yes.
Outside of networking for jobs. We're very good at it when it comes to like, oh, I need a promotion. Like, let me network with this older, wiser person and like work my way up the ladder. But like, for some reason, that's not transferring into like our personal life. Talk to us about the mentor program.
So I think it doesn't necessarily transfer into our personal life because having young kids, being a young family, you can really just kind of feel, or I did anyway, like kind of stuck where I am.
Yeah.
Like I can't really even, I don't have any brain power to think necessarily outside of myself. And look, I'm just like, we're getting down to it and we're going to go through day by day.
Right. Just trying to make it to bedtime.
Yes. The mentorship program is set up for exactly that, mentorship, getting matched with someone who you're going to jive with and who can just sort of be a light to you and walk beside you through life. Not necessarily be the one that can solve all your problems, but just be someone you can talk to. And like, who can point you back to Jesus in moments and make sure that you're getting sound advice and sound guidance. So we would love for people to sign up either to be mentored or to become a mentor. So if that's something that anybody is interested in, we would love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, and I'll put links to, you know, the Thrive ministry in our show notes so people can go and they can dig and look around.
Great. But
mentorship really it's discipleship. I mean, another word that's kind of increasing in buzz right now when we talk about disciples is actually saying apprenticeship, right? It's to follow not just the teachings, but the lifestyle of the person that is apprenticing you. You know, in the case of Jesus and his disciples, they weren't just meant to follow his teaching, they were meant to follow his lifestyle. And he makes that very clear over and over again. And that they're actually called to go and disciple others to do the same. And so when you think mentorship, sometimes it can almost feel like really, really like formal, like information transfer.
Yes.
Like, I will teach you the way. You will do as I say. It will work out okay. I didn't mean to rhyme. It just did. But it's, it's but it is. It's like, no, it's more. It's someone who has a heart for the Lord and a heart for you, sharing that heart.
Yes.
And being there when you need them. And, it really has been, Jim McKee, right, our executive pastor, has been mentoring me now for 5 years. And he has shared his successes and his blunders. And he shared times in his life where he thought he had it all figured out. And he shared the times where God made it very abundantly clear to him that he did not have it all figured out. And it's actually through his testimony that I've learned a lot about the gospel. And so I just, it can feel in this young family phase, especially if you have kids like under 5, that you really are, you're like, I'm just trying to make it to 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Like, I can't add in one more thing.
I can't add in one more thing. And maybe what I would just challenge our listeners is this: you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Whether it's the community at the Chick-fil-A playground, which I think some of them are opening up again finally after COVID.
I can think of one specifically that has a playground. But parks, getting out in the fresh air.
Right. Going to the mall, or Columbia Mall, like, has that little indoor germ-infested playground.
Yeah. I wouldn't go there, but if that's your thing, go for it.
Right. Maybe get a pair of shoes or something. Yeah, whatever. But I think that's really important. It is encouraging. It does lift up your heart, and having that community. And so, we have those kind of informal things, right? But we also have more formal things like small groups that meet anywhere from every other week to once a month. We've got, tell us actually about Dive In. That's really exciting. That's a quarterly thing. Yeah.
Yes. So that's something that we started, sort of a side note, after everything was shut down with COVID and everything's like kind of opening back up and gearing up. We at Thrive have an ability to try new things out and sort of revamp our ministry and see what from before we want to keep, what things we're not going to carry over with us now, what things we would like to add in. So Dive In is something that we sort of had before. We're bringing it back. And it's a quarterly meetup. So far, they've been Sunday evenings, where one woman in the church can just come and share her story with us, whatever story she feels God is putting on her heart to share. And it's a pretty informal meetup. Everyone brings a dessert. We hang out, listen to somebody share with us for 15, 20 minutes. And then we break up into small groups, kind of discuss it a little bit. We have some questions to guide us if we want it, and just have some time of fellowship. And I think it's really helpful because the hustle and bustle of Sunday morning, especially when you have young kids, it can just be impossible to actually connect with the other people that are going through the same hustle and bustle, right? Like you're up, if you're like us, you've probably gotten to some sort of tiff with your spouse that morning trying to get everybody out, and you kind of stare at each other on the way to church and kind of hold hands like, all right, we're okay now. And you're just trying to get through it, soak up whatever goodness you can that morning, and then hit them out. Dive In allows us to gather, talk to people that we wouldn't normally be able to connect with, and learn a little bit more about the sister in the church, and be encouraged. So,
is there childcare for that?
There's not childcare.
Okay, so that means dads, as a father, I'm talking now to you, like, this is a great opportunity to step up. I think we need to be willing, and this goes both ways. This isn't a guy only or a girl only. Like,
definitely.
You gotta love your spouse in this sense as well, that when they have an opportunity to go and be fed and be nourished by fellowship of believers and by God's word, and I think about Revelation, right? We're going to overcome by what? By the blood of the Lamb, Jesus, and the word of the testimony. what God has done in my life for me, despite me, that's bread and butter.
Yeah.
I mean, and that feeds your soul. And so dads, if your wife is like, hey, can I go to that thing? Like, you don't even hesitate. Just be like, absolutely. Because that stuff is really important.
Yes. And we have also found if you are not intentional about taking some time out to nourish your soul, time's just going to fly by, because there's always so much to do. It's never not going to be busy. Life is never not going to be busy. So you really just have to say, no, I'm going to block off this time every 3 months. I'm going to take 2 hours and I'm going to go meet and see how God uses that in my life.
Yeah. So we've got, and the small groups are family small groups, right? Like typically at Chapelgate anyway, we do it affinity based or even age and stage based might be another way to say that. So like kind of your stage of life or who you're drawn to be in community with, that's typically how small groups are formed. And so, for example, Kate and I have a small group. It's awesome. We have 7 families, and we're all like popping out kids like crazy. And so we all need to, I guess, buy one giant mansion, or there's no way we're going to be able to figure out how to have a small group anymore. Or kids like we chain them to the tree outside. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it's a fantastic place, and we meet once a month. There are other small groups that meet more frequently than that, but. So you got young family small groups, you got the quarterly dive in. I know there's an annual retreat, and things like that. But there's also, I believe, that the women's ministry does monthly dinners. Yeah.
Yes, that's something that we started up, a monthly ladies' night out, and we're trying to rotate the location between Eldersburg, Ellicott City, Columbia. And our hope with that is, again, it's just like an informal, casual way. Come out, meet some people, have some good food. Having it monthly, if you can't make it 1 month, hopefully you can make it the next month.
Right. Yeah, and that's not a
pressure.
commitment thing.
No.
Right.
There's really not any pressure to do any of this. We want to provide opportunities for the women in the church to find a place that they love and they feel loved. But life can be tough, and in certain stages it feels impossible. So there's never any pressure. We just want to be available.
Yeah.
So we have a ladies' night out coming up. What month are we? February 28th. It's a Tuesday. We have it at Mission Barbecue in Ellicott City. We got the back room reserved, so we'll all just go and grab your food and sit down and chat a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I, for what it's worth, I think Mission does takeout, so you could bring something home for your husband.
Okay, I do actually try to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty...
just, I feel like, I get to go out and have some fun, and thank you very much.
Yeah, like when y'all did the one at Facci, right?
Yes.
I wasn't interested in the takeout. That was just not... I'm not a Facci guy, but...
What? She got a pizza.
I know.
Didn't she? That looked so
No,
good.
she got a burger.
No, she did not. She got a pizza and she didn't eat the crust. I specifically remember this.
Wow. Kate, you're known. You should feel that.
Yes, yes, Kate. I see into your soul.
That's right. But yeah, Mission Barbecue, definitely take out.
Mission Barbecue, yes.
That's some good food right there.
Yeah.
Well, Melanie, with the time we have left, maybe just like a couple, just like small tidbit questions I'd have for you as a wife and a mom. Over the course of your marriage, what has been the best thing you've done as a wife for your marriage?
Oh, gosh. The best thing I've done as a wife for my marriage. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a very good wife.
No.
I don't know. I don't know, Rob. The best thing, just try to no, I will say this. I think the best thing that I have been able to learn that is good is to just chill out a little bit. I think my personality, I tend to feel like if something doesn't happen right now, it's never going to happen. But just giving Dan the benefit of the doubt and him giving me the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Right? He said this thing and it bothers me, but maybe he didn't mean it that way. Let me talk to him about it before I get very hurt.
Yeah.
And just assume, just trust that the other person loves you and wants the best for you and wants the best for your marriage, wants the best for your family.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's really good.
I don't know if that was a cohesive statement or not.
No, I think that's
hopefully
beautiful.
the people that are listening can draw out from that what I meant.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really grateful for that. I think that's really powerful, that idea of, my anxiety oftentimes is connected to a fear. I'm afraid, well, what if this doesn't work out? Well, why wouldn't it work out? Well, because what if love is not actually as committed and secure as I would like to believe? Well, then I'm gonna panic.
Yes.
But man, I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing.
You betcha.
Well, thank you for being on with us. We definitely appreciate it, and I know I speak for all our young families when I say that we're grateful for your role here at the church, but also just for your friendship. I think it's a really unique gift that you and Dan both bring to our church as members, as congregants, and you serve our families well, and so I'm just grateful for you.
Thank you. And also, if there's like any young mom out there, I'd love to meet you and spend some time with you, whether that's going out for coffee or having you over, me coming over and, hanging out with you while the kids are running around, whatever. Judy and I are here to serve you. And so if you can think of any way we could do that better, please let us know.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Well, we look forward to another episode coming out next week with another guest on In the Fire. But until then, thanks for listening. We hope you guys have a blessed week. Take care.
Bye.